Wow. Yeah, look, I did some exploring. Went all the way up here. Ow, shit. I went all the way up here. A fucking lobster beat the shit out of me right up here. Like, I'm not supposed to do that yet, so I'm gonna do Godric today. But first, also, I hope you had a good day. Where is it? Right here. Yep. I'm gonna go beat the shit out of the fucking. He's dead. He's just so dead. Like, I don't know why I thought he was so hard. I guess I'm just so over leveled now. I'm gonna do it on a horse. You did. That's good to hear. Shit. Shit. I promise I literally almost killed him. Like, I almost killed him off stream. I promise. I promise I did. Like, I actually did. I'm not lying. I would never lie. I don't tell lies. And I didn't use the wolves either. Shit. Okay, I need coffee. I need coffee. I need coffee. He's gonna... Yeah, kinda. Oh, you motherfucker. No, I swear to God, I got him so low, I was actually just destroying him, right, off stream. I fucked him up so fast, I literally swapped weapons. I literally swapped weapons because I felt bad. Like, I felt like my fucking sword was way too OP. So I just swapped. But now I can't do it again. Because I gotta warm up or something. So you know what that means. It means I've gotta go fucking kill stupid bugs in Caelid. Where's the ruins? Do the midge? What's the midge? Where's the fucking... Oh yeah, there. Midget, guys. Nah, that's cheese. Like, that's cheesing. It's not gonna help me get better at dodging, you know? These guys still give me trouble, so I like practicing against them. Like, they're fucking horrible. I hate them so much. Yeah, but I get 600 for 2 of these guys. And sometimes I can, and it's a lot more, like, it's a lot better practice. And I'm not supposed to be there yet. Ritz said that it's, he said that it's not good that I'm going to that area yet. He said, why are you even there? In the clip where the door wouldn't fucking open and he's throwing boulders at me. Like, why was I there, though? I think I hate the dogs more than these fucking bug fuckers, you know? Oh, shit. Hey! Mother bitch. Maybe I should get off my horse. Yeah, I did get the... Yeah, but, like, why is the boat guy so pathetic? Like, he shouldn't be that fucking pathetic. if he actually gives you a quest, which allows you to go into an area where you can cheese stuff. Wait a second, I need to do this. I did it again! I did it wrong again! Oh, I guess I don't get a magic sword right now. See, 600. Also, I realized why everybody hates Scarlet Raw. It's so cringe. You just die if you get it, even if you use like all of your flasks. I'm dead. I'm dead. No, I'm not. Yeah, but that boss right outside the area, he's never gonna die. He's way later, right? Like, even the guy who, like, he beat the game naked. Like, you know, the naked character of a club. He was saying that he said, fuck that boss. Like, that boss is horrible, apparently. Also, apparently Caelid's supposed to be late game. I had no idea. Why am I allowed to be here, then? I mean, it makes sense. It is horrible. But, like... Shit. Yeah. There's also a fucking... Shit. Stupid ugly dog, fuck off. My god. Oh, I got outplayed. I got outplayed by a bug. As usual, I got outplayed. I hate these guys. Like, the dogs are the worst. Mm. Uh-oh. I didn't mean it. It was just a joke. I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. They're so AIDS! They're so horrible! Oh, at least they're getting runes. I'm gonna lure the dogs out first. Oh yeah, there's 3 of them on me. That's cool. Come on. Shit. What am I doing? Go away! Oh, shit. Well, why did it? Okay, just have a sip of water. Calm down. Oh, of course you saw me. Oh shit, I'm fucking rotting. GG, you're botting. No, I'm just being stalked, probably. Also, I have the stream open. One of them is me. Hi. Bad. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Mute him. Oh, you're here. Yeah, just turn him off. Turn Katzen off. Get rid of him. Get rid of him for like 2 minutes. I don't want to see his messages. Kill him. He was rude. Katzen. See, look, now you're turning on him. You're all evil people. Stop it! My god. I know I'm actually getting better. I got addicted to it. If I wasn't getting any better, I wouldn't still be playing. I think, no, I'm not getting better really, like, my sword's just really OP. Like, look at it. Look, I'm still getting rolled by these fucking, like, noob guys, you know? But they are kind of annoying. And I've never killed a bird yet. You know the birds here? They're horrible. They're actually fucking evil birds. You can't kill them. Okay, dude. Time him out. Time him out. I'm on my period, everybody gets timed out. You know everything about this game, you have 5k hours on it, then shut the fuck up. I know you don't. Oh, so you know everything about the game and you're the most useless person in the chat. You know advice, only you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. My day's worse because I'm watching, you're bad. That's the only fucking input you have. Oh! Oh no! I didn't fucking need. Oh no! Shut up! Look what you've done! There's a fucking dragon chasing me. No one justified hating aloud. My bad. I just want one level. So, just do it a few times, you know? If this was me playing, I wouldn't run. Yeah, well, someone did tell me I can beat that dragon, but I want to try Godric first, or at least Tree Sentinel. The Scarlet Rot Dragon is quite hard. Zize told me that there's one that is just dying and he's on the floor and you can just kill him. And he doesn't do anything about it. And you get loads of soul. Are you extra rage baitable right now? No, but I might cry. I'm in a lot of pain. Anyway, thanks to... Shout out Effium for this amazing cheese strategy. Killing midgets. For 1,000 souls. You just have to crab walk. Yeah, that's right. Rage bait him instead. He's really easy to rage bait. Everybody does it. I'm not sure, probably. He seems like one of those people who doesn't actually play games. He just watched Markiplier play it, probably. Uh-oh. 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 You fucking midget! What the hell? Okay. 5 years old. Every time I start screaming, the views go down by like at least 2. It's embarrassing. Little person. No, like, why is that? Why does he do that much damage? I'm really not supposed to be here. Fuck. You didn't see me? You're my golden tree in life. What the fuck does that even mean? Probably an insult. Shit. So can I level up? No, I need to kill 2 more. Is that a grace? Shit. I will give you a 1. Can you not argue? It's just annoying. You deserve a timeout for spelling pussy boy like that. Or even just saying that. But you can't time all the mods. Lord Claw. Oh my fucking god. Ugh. Squiddo, would you date a midget? Probably not. Somebody in the relationship needs to be able to fend off attackers, and I can't do that, so. I mean, maybe the one from Game of Thrones, he's pretty tough. We can put little machine guns in your wheelchair. That's what you get for playing Valorant. Okay, well. On site with this fucking tree sentinel. You're just saying that because you're bad at it. Oh, he just rolled me! Get away! That's what I get for rolling into a fucking rock. He's stuck in a tree, lol, fucking idiot. Yeah, so much for tree sentinel. Trolled by trees. Oh shit, he's using a magic spell. I'm stuck in a tree now. Why are we here? Come on! Yikes. I'm dead, aren't I? Squiddo, when are you gonna quit this game so I can watch your stream without wanting to turn it off? Get timed out for 30 seconds for being mildly rude. I got a fucking epic... Oh my god, I'm gonna use that. Oh, I can't fucking use it? I bet that's really good when you level it up. Oh, it's got really shitty... What's fail scaling? Oh, it's faith. It's got pretty bad scaling, huh? I wonder what the charged attack is. Well, that's just terrible. Don't spam roll away, you should sprint away. I like spam rolling though. It was fun. Just want to use this, but I can't. Like, I want to be able to one-hand that. We're gonna get the strength. So I'm only leveling up strength. Also, he only gave me 3,000 runes. That's pathetic. What a loser. Where's Godric at? Where the fuck is Godric? I forgot. Probably here, right? Plus 1,000 social credit score. One day Singapore will probably get taken over by China. He's throwing barrels at me. Okay. May as well just... Did I? Well, it's gone now, isn't it? Fuck! I got another one. Oh, shit. Let's see. That's not that bad. Oh, I can do... Wait, so I can do twin blades with this. And then let's see if I can... Oh my god, and then one of them is magic. That's insane. Have you leveled Dex that much? Does my character actually look cool? Do you really think she looks cool? Thank you. I appreciate it. I think she's cool too. Okay, I almost just fucking killed myself. Oops. Time him out. Time him out. Time him out. Time everyone out. Time everyone out. Forgot there's a hole down there. Oh fuck. Yeah, keep aura farming for no reason. Oh shit. Yeah, I might level, I might keep both of these though, and like actually use them, to be honest. Cause that's not bad. And they're not even leveled up at all. And I think if I put an Ashes of War on them that like does strength training, I mean strength scaling, I'll be able to, you know, make it do even more damage. Squiddo, I'm gonna go eat breakfast. I'll be back later. Have a nice breakfast. Or have a bad breakfast. Which fucking one is it? With the guy? You'll miss calling me bad. Like, this guy is so stupid. He just always goes round. Why does he always go all the way around? I was about to call him an actual NPC, but he literally is. So that's like, what would be the point in saying that? I was to say, look at this fucking NPC. He's so stupid. He's too fat to... No, he's not. I don't think he is. Anyway, where the fuck is he? Is he this? Is it this one? I'm guessing it's this one. Yeah, here it is. No. Fake Squiddo fan. Wow. That should be the tier 1 sub name. He's dead, you know. I saw a video on YouTube and it said all Elden Ring cutscenes where nobody has any clothes on. What?
I command thee.
Okay, I hate him.
I am the lord of all that is golden.
Pickle Rick. Godric the Grafted. Uh-oh. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Roderick the Grafter. There's a guy called Roderick in Diary of a Wimpy Kid? Godric does not rule, I hate him, he was fucking rude to me. I thought, he can't be more cocky than Margit, you know? Nah. He's even worse. It's literally great. I didn't read Diary of a Wimpy Kid because I read actual good books when I was younger. Not just books that were made for kids who didn't fucking like reading. Like, if you read Captain Underpants and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, stupid. Okay, at least I got my souls back. Why can't I stagger him? Why can't I stagger him? Name 5 books. Okay. I'll name 5 books by one author. I can't. But you can't stagger him. I literally can't. How am I gonna win then? Oh my god, I'm actually not gonna win ever, am I? The only reason I beat Margit is because I kept fucking throwing him to the floor. So it doesn't matter what I wear. It doesn't matter how much poise I have, basically, because I can't stagger him. Or does poise stop me from getting staggered? Dodge him. So poise stops me from getting staggered, or does it stagger him? I don't understand what the difference between robustness and poise is. I'm not gonna lie. Also, I spent so fucking much on this, and it's dog shit. And I couldn't sell it back. Skill check, yeah, probably. You're going to need to learn the fight. Hate learning. Let's just stay back and observe. While running away. See if that... So he's bad? Well, he's not bad. He's bad from a distance. He can't, you know, get me. So then he has that attack. Oh, fuck, he has projectiles. Okay, I'm better fucking eating my words right now. Yeah, no, he does have ranged attacks. Oh, shit. Oh my god, he's laughing at me. Oh my god, this is gonna rage me so much. He's actually laughing at me. What a fucking cunt. Oh, it's hard to dodge, fuck. Yikes! Get the fuck away, get the fuck away, get the fuck away, get the fuck away from him. Yikes! To learn good habits and get better. I think I need more dexterity. I need to dodge faster. Pattern recognition. Wait, hang on. I feel like I could use... Maybe I need to... What's the thing you can do? Where you can, like... You can hop backwards. That might be useful. So I should lock on to him, right? You lock on... Yeah, sure, whatever. I'll fucking lock on. Backstep. Yeah. He's like a fucking... I didn't get I lost all my runes. He's like a fucking tumbleweed. He's like a fucking tumbleweed. I might need to use the, I lost all my runes. Lol. I might have to actually use this. And I might have to use this too. Wait, no. Maybe, no. I think I'll use this. Also, I want to make some thingies. I'll make some thingies, you know? And you just fight him. There's 4 phases! Yeah, I'm never beating him, am I? This is the end of the playthrough. Bye. Dodge. Sometimes I click instead of dodging, which is not good. Oh well, I almost just jumped off the map. How does that still hit me? My sword's gone. I fucking dodged that. I'm actually not watching this. I can't lock on! I can't fucking lock on. If I lock on, then I don't know where I'm going. If I lock on, I can't run away in any direction I want. It only lets you walk in the direction of the fucking guy, and you can't move. This is my third, it's like my 4th attempt, and you're all screaming at me. Motherfucker. See, I have to unlock on when I'm running away. It's faster to run away if you're not looking at it. Shit. Just sprint. Press S while locked on. But that doesn't make you, but that makes you go fat, like you go slower. You go slower if you're looking at him. If you're walking backwards, you walk slower than if you're walking forwards. Which is why I don't fucking like walking backwards. That was a good try. I did way fucking better, and I'm getting screamed at. How do I dodge that? Oh. He's gonna farm me. He's gonna fucking farm me. Oh, he's transforming. Okay. I thought he was gonna like or something. Oh, you're so bad, you're so bad, you're so bad.
Truest of dragons. Lend me thy strength.
Bruh. Yeah, you did believe in me, thanks. Thanks, Daylight. Was that dragon alive? What? Oh my fucking god. The flames are gonna one-shot me, aren't they? Aren't they? Oh my god. And I don't get my heals back after a cutscene. Yeah, I fucking knew it. Easy, 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 easy.
We'll return together to our home.
Easy, easy, easy.
In rays of gold.
Clip it. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I thought you said I couldn't, suck it ahead. That wasn't clip worthy. Yeah, honestly, he kind of sucked. Like, he was too busy aura farming with the fucking dragon head, and he just, like, sucked. Okay? Yeah? Well, he sucked. Maybe I'll put some points into Dex. I don't know what it does, though. It's not making any of these go any higher, so... Yep. Yes, I need strength 40. So I can fucking one-hand my fucking massive claymore. Right, well. Bet there's a treasure chest. Okay, there's not. What's this? 40 or 50. It's 40. Yeah, because they didn't... Well, I mean... I think I got lucky with just, you know, stopping him from attacking. somehow. I thought you said he couldn't be staggered. I guess I staggered the fuck out of him. Maybe he can in second phase. I do not have 200 hours. Look. Like what? I'm at 37. And I left the game open last night as well. I do not have 200 hours! Look! Fucking liar. Actually just trying to make me look bad. I'm not the goat. I just have a, like, maybe this sword is just actually completely fucking meta cheese. And I'm fine with it. Because I got it off one of those horse guys who used to just beat the shit out of me. Why can't I attack? I just went in a circle. Where do I go? I beat that boss in that. I don't even think that's possible. Moonlight. Where do I fucking go? Okay, I beat Godric, but the real challenge is Godric's fucking castle. What do I do here? You can beat the whole game in 1 hour? Yeah, which one? I can't use my sword. I'm allowed to break all the pots. Oh, here we go. Thanks. Oh, it's fine. Is there really no treasure chest? Oh, I can attack now. What's that? Remembrance. What does that even do? Already been here. You're gonna eat breakfast. You're gonna eat breakfast again? Okay. Oh. Good job, you're going to bed. Good night. I didn't think I'd be able to do that in like so fast, honestly. Hope I never see you in chat again. Okay, dude.
Wonderful. You've taken an well, that is Selin. I followed her, but Selin accused of I still don't the illustrious.
Was she accused of? She sleep with the teacher?
And you never. And if you once you would you consider? I know it, but still.
Bye. He came back to time you out. W hate. I try the dragon. Do the dragon. I'll just try the dragon, you know? Fuck. So fuck this. Fuck these guys. They were fucking me up off stream. Like, look how much damage they do. It's crazy. Well, that might be... Those might be some good fucking gloves. Ooh, look at that. She really does got that shit on. You should just try to get the maps. Yeah, I've been looking for them, but like this area is fucking horrible. Because if a bird starts chasing you, you just have to fucking leave. Because you can't kill them. They're horrible. Maybe lock on. Oh, I don't know if I can do this yet. Oh, okay. We're not doing that. We're not doing that shit. Not yet. Absolutely not yet. That was a one shot, I think. Fuck, I lost my fucking runes that I got from Godric. Oh no, I didn't. Well, I got some of them. How am I gonna get them back when the dragon's sitting on them now? Where is Gaylight? He's having his second breakfast. No. Oh, fuck! Hey. Is that second breakfast your mom? Hashtag owned, hashtag swag, hashtag me. I need another mod. Like, why is being annoying your hobby? I mean, it's quite a fun hobby, but, like, come on. Give me some advice. Where do you think I should explore next? Or, why do we have a conversation? Talk about something interesting. It's fun, lol. God. Actual TikTok child. You know, on my TikTok, I just get bullied by Russian people who saw my CSGO clips and they got very annoyed at me for being bad at CSGO. So fucking stupid. Where is this guy? Where is he? Tell you a story. When I was younger, like when I was like 4, I almost said when I was 6 or 7, but I had to stop myself. I was probably like under the age of 6. Okay, fuck my life. I used to just swallow beads. I used to just like get small objects and I just swallow them just because I thought it was funny. Like I just thought it was fun and I wouldn't tell anyone about it. Just to see what would happen. I don't know why I did that. Really fucking weird. You don't care. Yeah, well, I didn't even see. I didn't even see that you said that, so. And we all know what happened to you when you were a kid. You were dropped on your fucking head, obviously. So I wanna... There's definitely stuff here. Which direction is that? I have to get down there somehow. Hmm. Oh yeah, there's a giant here as well. And he comes out like here. After you kill a few of these guys. I didn't manage to kill him. He made me mad. Ah. There he is. Shit. Okay, Squid. Okay, Katzen. You somehow have autism Riz. Well, the first 4 words are correct. Like, when I fuck up at work, you will just laugh and people won't be mad at you. It's probably because they think you're... It's probably because they know you're autistic and they feel bad for you. You laugh while you say sorry. That's what you do when you fuck up. And then you just, like, people just, you know, they're like, oh, well, she's easygoing. She didn't mean it, you know, like, that's the strat. It works. I hope you didn't fucking drop something good because I've just lost it. Oh. She? Huh? I'm talking about myself. Like, I'm clumsy and I break things, but I'm like genuinely, like, disabled, so they can't really blame me. I can't believe I just said that. Yeah, I'm having to translate English to Katzen language. Brain rot translator. See, how much do I need for another? Fuck, that's a lot. You hear that? There's a noise. Oh, it's that guy. Yeah, no thanks. I'm not fighting him yet. There's supposed to be another dragon that's like lying on the floor and you can kill him really easily and then you get a bunch of souls. It might be that thing over there. Maybe it is. Get map. Oh yeah? What is the map thingy? Oh, there's another boss over here, by the way. He's called, like, Captain Motherfucker or something. And he scared the shit out of me, so I just left. And there's also an invasion that really pissed me off, too. Use a bleed weapon and hit him like 100 times. Sleeping dragon. Bleed does... Oh, okay. I could use bleed grease. Yeah, I need the sleeping dragon. Apparently he's like here. I think he's here. Somebody said. But I don't know. I also I wanna like get the map here. It's asleep. Like it's you cheese it apparently. Somebody said I could do it before the first boss, but I didn't want to because it just feels, you know. God, look, it's that motherfucker throws shit at you. So you picked the pussy way out. Shut up, Katzen, you are AI. You're on fucking real. Old fouled foot, which gives you increased souls when you kill some. I think I actually do have one of those. Oh. Use it just before he dies. Yeah, that's super cheesy. Damn. Shit. Yeah, what the fuck do I do? Oh, I'll go here. It'll get auto-modded. And don't. I'll have to ban you. Yeah, I haven't made it past this part because of that fucking bird that I hate. That fucking bird that I hate. Look at him. He's so annoying. Clankers. You know there's some people who actually get upset about the word clanker. It's stupid. I was scared to shit on me. I almost shit myself. Oh my god. I'm not making it out there alive. Oh my god. As a viewbot, I'm offended. You're my favorite viewbot, thank you. At one time, I actually did get viewbotted though. I was just playing Mega Bonk and I went up to like 50 viewers for zero reason. It was so weird. And of course, nobody was chatting because, you know, they're all bots. Happened to Ritz as well. Like, he was just streaming DJ stuff and, like, he just went up to, like, I think he went up to 70 views. And nobody was chatting. And you couldn't see any names and, like, viewers in chat. No problem, Squiddo. I do not have $10. I'm sorry. I buy myself an iPhone. That's rage bait. Just buy the better Samsung or get the fucking, I can't remember the name. Get one of those fucking gamer phones, you know? The phones for gamers. Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god, I'm getting fireball spelled. I'm getting fucking fireball spelled at the bridge. Oh no! Google Pixel 10 Pro. Yeah, that's probably good. You don't game. Yeah, you don't. You just... Your only game is trying to rage bait streamers. Saying 6'7". Base Squiddo take. Well, don't get a fucking iPhone. Like my mom has 3 iPhones. She has one, and then she has. Oh, okay, guys, I'm just gonna go back up now that you've dropped yourself. Oh, this shit, they have bows. She has like 3, and her older 2 are so slow. But like they're not like they were so expensive, so she doesn't want to just get rid of them. So she still uses them for stuff, like taking pictures and saving stuff. But they're so slow just because they're not made to last a long time. Like the Apple updates, they're genuinely made to make the phones slower. There was a lawsuit about it, and people still fucking buy the phones. I don't get it. You pirate everything on your Android phone. Yeah, I kind of want to like jailbreak my Android phone because I'm getting really pissed off at all the Google shit that I'm just like that runs in the background and basically just fucking ruins my performance and battery life. I have a Sony because I bought a phone so I could listen to music while I was at the gym, basically. And also still have a phone. And I bought it when I was drunk. I should not have fucking spent so much money on a phone. The gym has music. Yeah. Oh yeah. The last time I was at the gym and I was listening to the music they had on, they played Taylor Swift into like hard style. It was fucking bizarre. Like it was like Taylor Swift was playing and then like hard style like came on. And then rock music later on. Like whose fucking playlist is terrible. So stupid. Nah. She's not allowed her feet out. Too many gooners trying to put her in a bikini on Twitter. Oh shit. What you listen to? I listen to UK hardcore. It's like well like basically you can just say electronic music because when you get into genres of electronic music it becomes very autistic. There's way too many. And I can't tell the difference between most of them even like it gets very autistic. Recently, I've just been listening to like chill stuff though. I think he's called Gabriel. Name a few artists. I want to, but I've met Airbreak. You should go check him out. I love his music. It's really good. I'm so, dude. Like, go and eat your go and have your 3rd fucking breakfast. Go away. Oh my god, you're so both of you are in. I would say, oh London, do you want to have mod? But like, you can be just as bad as this. I mean, you acting like toddlers. I'm not fucking modding you. You'll ban every single person in the chat. That'd be worse than having me as a mod. Look, there's a reason why I'm not a mod on anyone's Twitch channel. Also, if I just watch these guys fight, do I just get the runes? I think I do, don't I? Yeah. You type /ban daylight. I'm pregnant. I'm not fucking what? Okay. Just imagine you two are in voice chat right now giggling like fucking 6-year-olds. I might not be able to get pregnant. I had MRI results back recently. I have endometriosis. So I have to have surgery to figure out, like, so that they can find out how bad it is. But like, it might be really bad. It'd be sad, but you know, you can always adopt and stuff. And it's a fucking horrible disease. If I ever did a charity stream, it would definitely be for an endometriosis charity, because it's like not like I'm learning stuff about it now that I didn't even know about it before. I'm like, it's fucking horrible. You can get it in your heart, like, and there's no cure really, other than to just take literally like like all of the tissue. Like they take out your entire womb and your whole fucking uterus and just everything. And obviously I don't want them to do that, because if you did that before menopause, you just end up having menopause at, like, you know, way before it. Obviously I don't want menopause. You imagine me with menopause. Imagine how angry I'd be. I'd probably kill myself just out of anger. When my mom first started menopause, she was fucking moody as shit. It was awful. What's menopause? When you shut the fuck up. Oh, fuck. Swear your parents hate me. I'll sell my house so you would get surgery. Well, they're gonna give me it, in the UK, probably. I mean, I hope they do it this year, at least, but it might not be. They might make me wait for a long time. So then, obviously, I can look at, like, getting it done for cheaper abroad, you know? And it would be better. But then I also still have to get my wisdom teeth out as well. I might be going to Poland this year. I know, like, dental care is really cheap over there, so I'll probably, if I do, I'll definitely get my wisdom teeth taken out there, because I'm not paying £800 to get 2 fucking teeth removed. Never come to Bulgaria. Don't worry. You're safe. I'm not going. But yeah. You're safe if you don't. Yeah, like, oh no, I can't go to Bulgaria. Oh no, my wallet won't get stolen. Oh no. Oh no, I get to keep my phone. I'm so sad. They actually like it here. Okay. Guys. There's a lot of places in Africa that are really rich. You know. Are you fucking retarded? Dubai is in Africa. In Africa, you go outside and get eaten by a lion. Okay, Bulgarian education system is doing great. Dubai is in Africa. It is! Wait, what? It is. It's in Africa. Dubai. What continent is it in? Oh shit, it's in Asia. Fuck. God damn it. You might be the dumbest person alive. You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that after Katzen just said that people get eaten by lions when they go outside in Africa. Shut the fuck up. There's loads of really rich people in South Africa. And there's loads of really rich people in a lot of places in Africa, because it's fucking corrupted as shit. But yeah, the poor places are pretty bad. But can you imagine the most Russian village slum ever? Probably not that much worse. I saw a video of a babushka, and she had to walk every day to the well with a giant bucket to get water. And a man asked her, what countries would you like to visit in the world? And she said she doesn't want to visit any country, she only needs Russia. Like, wow. Have you been to school? Yeah, but it was a long time ago. I haven't had any like formal education since fuck 2019, and I was only studying like art then. Um, okay, dude. That's very nice. She surely DM'd you while she can't even read her chat because she's so addicted to Marvel Rivals. You fuck with art? Yes. Me thinking about before I got completely addicted to Elden Ring. I was thinking I'm gonna start actually making like a portfolio just for myself so I can like track what projects I'm doing and stuff. I used to practice drawing a lot like a few years ago, basically after I stopped streaming. Because I used to stream all the time, like way too much. And I would used to drink all the time, like way too much. And I remember I think my dog died in like 2019 or 2020 or something, or 2021. And then I got like I stopped streaming for ages and I never really got back into it. And I started just like focusing on trying to learn to draw and stuff. But I haven't done that regularly for a long time. Rest in peace, dog. Yo, kill yourself. That's not funny. You can say mean things to me, but don't be mean about animals. No. I have some, like, there's some, like, pieces, like, sort of, like, ink line thingies that I might post at some point. But I haven't uploaded anything, really. You're stopping, you should feel bad. Don't be mean about animals. I'm gonna fuck this animal up, though. Shit. Maybe not. Jesus! Oh, never mind. I'm just gonna leave. That is horrible. It's not even taking any fucking damage. You feel bad about my situation. What is my situation? There is nothing. I was watching old clips last night, and I realized I was literally drunk all the time when I played Overwatch and streamed. Like, all the fucking time. It was so bad. And I acted like a fucking 15-year-old. I just screamed like a retard. You think I'm loud now? It was like I would just scream out of nowhere. Oh, here's a map. You need 67 surgeries and you live in the real. Actually fucking real. They're putting a camera down my throat in March.
You will.
And they might have to put one of my... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Well, it's a good job I didn't have to finish that sentence. Use your imagination. Okay, I'm gonna go here and upgrade my thingy a bit more. Oh no, wait. I'm gonna I need the UK part is the worst actually. I need to go Chipsa and Squiddo. Okay, I don't disagree with you there, I think. Although Greek god. We should marry Chipsa, have the world's dumbest baby. No. I'm the fattest one. No. Chipsa's not my type. I'm sorry. There's already someone else. Where is the fucking dragon? I think it. Oh yeah, they told me it's through here. Baby needs 200 surgeries when it comes out because of Squiddo's genes. Oh, well, might not even be able to have a baby. Like, they found, like, really bad shit, and it was an MRI without contrast. So, you know, like, they make you drink something before you have the scan, so they can see stuff in more contrast. I didn't even have that. Like, it was just the scan, and they found, like, it's fucking bad. Like, it's like, it's fucking worse. It's, like, so much worse than I thought it was gonna be. I was worried that, like, oh, what if they don't find anything, and then they just have to, like, do a surgery to find out if I have it. And then they found it. They found it on the fucking scan. I fucking cried so much when I got the letter. I still don't know for sure whether I want kids or not. It's sad. Because, like, what if I decide I really want them in the next few years and then, like, I might not be able to? The abuse you put your body through, do you think? Good, you should never have a baby. We don't need more people who think device. Shut the fuck up. To be fair, I wouldn't want to have a girl anyway because of the diseases I have are genetic. Like, they can be passed down, so I wouldn't really want to fucking, you know. I don't know how I got it though. My mom gave birth to me fine, and so did my aunt and my grandma. Like, nobody has it. It's just like, I'm thinking it's possible that a contraceptive device that I had when I was younger could have caused it. I read some stuff about that online, but obviously they're probably still researching it. I wouldn't be surprised if something comes out in the future that it caused people to develop it. Like a coil. They put a copper coil inside your uterus and it stops you from getting pregnant. Bad spawn, but go fuck yourself. My sister doesn't have it. She's fine. Well, is she? How old? Dude, shut the fuck up. We hate you. Okay, how do I get up here? Like, how do I get up here? Genuinely. Do I have to do parkour? I hope I don't. How much subs? So, I send me her panties. Okay, I'm actually gonna time you out. Not just because that's disgusting, but because your English is... What? Did you even try? The fuck are you talking about? Is she bad? I'm not talking about my sister. None of your business. She wouldn't want me to. It's weird. Get off the fucking horse, maybe. Okay, how... So I do have to parkour. You have to solve it for her, she can't do it. There's no way there's a puzzle. No, I'm being serious, I'm not doing the fucking puzzle. It will be harder for me to do a fucking puzzle than it will to beat fucking Godric. Or Margit. Fucking these motherfuckers again. Yeah, your fucking fourth breakfast, or is it your third? Ooh. Great. Is it really a puzzle and a fucking puzzle and parkour? I love it. This game is so nice to me. Oh shit, I can level up soon. Shit. I should kill random people. Or get killed by random people. Why is he spurging out? So, Katzen, you were the person who said that we've got Zaza stacks in Valorant before GTA 6, right? I didn't know who that was, and then I saw the fucking video about the Marvel Rivals tournament that I'd been trying to avoid because I don't give a fuck about that game. They honestly just confused me. Like, the only thing that guy did bad, like, obviously it's not his fault because he was getting stressed because he wanted the money, right? But he was yelling quite a bit. Like, I would have gone upset just by him shouting. I probably would have been shouting back at him, but I would also want the money, so I probably wouldn't throw on Widow, you know? It is so shit. Like, Marvel Rivals has literally just become Overwatch with how, like, you just have to play healers and fucking, like, stand there fucking healing. It sucks. When I stream it, I'm just gonna play Spider-Man and Hardened and just try to, like, pull people off the map. Put me in a team with 3 women on my team and they need to play DPS attack, I will just forfeit. Okay, it is. You can be in the stack when I stream it. Where do I go? You don't play. Just the okay, guys, you're not allowed to say shit like that. You know most fucking players are male, right? But that means, like, I know that boosted players exist. I'm not denying that. And it's upsetting. It is. I used to get very annoyed about that. But it is definitely not all of them. Never playing Minecraft with you. You hacked me. I'm never playing Minecraft with you either. You trolled me in the game. Remember that. Horrible build battle session. I need to find out where the seal got broken and then go in. No, you're just sexist. Well, be sexist quietly. I don't want to know about it. It's bad. Well, let's be honest. I guess I'm sexist too. I think that males are just born without whimsicalness or whimsy. And that's why they get depressed. And they don't have many hobbies. On average. Obviously, you know, not all of them, but... I think woman bad. Yeah, well, you're fucking stupid. You're dumb. Imagine getting angry or rage bait on the internet and believing it. There are people making money off of you clicking a thumbnail that's a video and it's like, toxic e-girl gets revenge on her for being toxic e-girl who bully man, hate man. Like, you'll click on that and you're like, oh my god, yes, I hate women. And then you give them money. That's stupid. You're dumb. It's rage bait. Like, why do people care so much? It's dumb. Literally you. What? When did I bully a man? I just said you lack whimsy. It's not your fault. And obviously, I know a very whimsical man. Some of them can be really whimsical. They just don't want to be a lot of the time. I didn't get rage baited. I'm just trying to explain. Look, I have to say that you're not allowed to say that, otherwise my stream might get banned. Like, I'm like, usually I wouldn't say anything, like, because it's like, oh yeah, whatever, I can't control what people say, but I'm pretty sure in the TOS, like, I don't have a mod here right now, so I think in the TOS I actually have to, like, stop my chat from saying shit like that. I'm not sure. So, like, I think one of the, you can report people for not moderating their chat. I don't know, both of you. But like, I have to like at least say something, you know? I can't just like not say anything. If there was a mod here, I wouldn't. You can be as retarded as you want. Because I don't want to talk about it. I hate politics. It's just, like, people just fucking get rage baited. And that rage baits me, how stupid everyone is. Like, there are people who use Twitter all day, every day, and they just get mad about politics and argue about politics on every fucking website they use. And it's all they think about, and they try and make an excuse to bring it up into any conversation they possibly can. I don't understand how people like that function. I'm not surprised most of them are fucking depressed and suicidal. It's fucking insane. Get joy baited. We should all just get joy baited instead. You don't know this platform. You watch 2 streamers, you and the femboy. Do they wear cat ears on stream though? That's the real question. Also, are they Finnish? Politics are stupid because it's never left or right. It's middle grounds always. That's the... I can't tell if you're trolling or not, but that's probably the least dumb thing you've ever said. Yeah, well, yeah, because people who care about politics, they only see it in black and white. And that's why they just get angry. It's fucking dumb. I understand having some strong opinions on some things, but like... People enjoy being miserable. It's so much easier to just not care about literally anything because there's nothing you can do anyway. So I just pretend that nothing's happening. Because when I do actually like read the news and realize what's like stuff that's happening, like the stuff that's happening in Iran, I read the news and it's like, wow, I'm depressed now. How do people care about this all the time? Not built for it. Dubai in Africa. Yes. Live your life like Dubai's in Africa. That's my advice to you. No, but I'm so much happier, like, ever since I stopped actually giving a fuck about, like, oh, what's happening in the world? Oh my god, the kids can't read. They look at 6, 7 on TikTok and they can't read. Oh no. Like, I just think about it. If you don't think about it, it's not real. It's not happening. It's fine. Anyway, I got some stuff from those things, and I don't know what the fuck I got. Wait, what? No way. Oh my god, I'm a mushroom! Oh. But I think a lot of people go for a phase where they care about that stuff way too much when they're in their late teens or early 20s, but then, like, I think most people grow out of it, really. But then some people don't, and those people are just always gonna be fucking miserable. Either, like, that is if they're not an actual activist. Like, if they're actually doing, like, if they're actually doing stuff to help the issue, instead of just arguing on the internet all day, then sure. But, like, most of these people are just, you know. You got some talisman, you got some sword key thing. Oh, yeah, up. Oh, I've definitely got it. There's a thing up the stairs, up here. Sword key. I ignore this. I know the Sudan shit is horrible. Like like the news is just horrible. Everything is horrible. Why would you want to think about it all the time? Okay, there's a thing I've got to put the thingy into. Where is it? It's mostly third world countries. Well, something I saw today, which is very upsetting, which I didn't consent to being shown the news, but my phone decided to show me news on like a Google or app or something. And it's like, oh, the bride of an ISIS fighter is being returned to the UK. Why? Oh, okay. That's cool, I guess. Hope she's not moving next to me. That might be bad. It's just stupid. The news are the rage baiters. They are the rage baiters. If you just don't read it, it's fine. I need to level up, to be honest. GG cancelled. No, she was British and she went to go and help ISIS and now she's come back. You think there was maybe more than one? I didn't read it. I just read the like what I do is I just look at the titles and I'm like, wow, this sucks. And then like I'm not reading the news ever again. Because the only time I see articles is when it's like on YouTube recommended for some reason, or it just gets pushed onto one of my feeds. My dad watches the news like all day. He watches it on the TV and then he watches it on his computer, like a live feed of like stuff happening all the time. Like, why doesn't he just play Elden Ring? Never allow her back. My dad is like 10. He did fail the breakfast question, but he drinks more than I do, so. You know the question. How would you feel if you hadn't eaten breakfast this morning? Yeah, no, he is actually a boomer, I think. So, yeah. So, where do I put the fucking stone key? It's gotta be here somewhere. This isn't even a puzzle, this is just annoying as fuck. Still hate these guys, like, a lot. Yep, I do. Hate them. I'm going to the bathroom. But yeah, my dad acts like it's still the fucking 60s and the only pastime he has is reading the news. Like, for entertainment. It's really weird. I'm going to the bathroom, I'll be right back. I don't know about this milk. Said it went off? It said it went bad on the 17th. They said to use it by then. But it doesn't smell and it doesn't taste weird. Maybe I'll be fine. I don't think you can get... I think you can get ill from that, right? Oh. I gotta get my souls back before I get perked. I already finished Godric, so what should I rename the title to? Probably shouldn't AFK. I put Ulu in the title. Played Doki. I already